Good morning, everybody, and thank you for attending the panel discussion today. I'm very excited to be introducing our guest speakers on our discussion on deep technology in sustainability, and I'm very proud to be joined by Professor Mark Tester from KAUST, Mr. Abdullah Sahab from IRAMA, Mr. Amrit Omnayak from Indra Water, and Dr. Asra Damdam from Uvera. So welcome, everyone. My name's Matt. I'm from South Pole. We're a global climate company helping organizations and governments decarbonize and invest in climate. And I will be putting the questions to our panelists, and so we'll start off. Starting with a question to the whole panel, and maybe you could introduce yourselves in a little bit more depth and provide a quick overview of your organizations and companies and the work you're doing. But I'll start with you, Mark, but what are the most promising technology innovations that you're seeing at the moment, maybe addressing the food and water sustainability topics as we're at the climate COP? Over to you.
Sure. I'm Mark Tester. I'm the head of the Centre of Excellence at KAUST for Sustainable Food Security. And the aim of that centre is to use technologies to try to reduce the environmental footprint of our food sector. And one way, there are many ways to deliver this, of course. One way is to go through startups, and I co-founded a startup called originally Red Sea Farms. It's now naming in public as Iris, and our aim in that company is to deliver technologies that we've developed, including heat blocking technologies and plant genetics for making the roots stronger, especially for plants like tomatoes and melons. The technologies are many. In fact, I've just mentioned two. And the heat blocking technologies come from nanoparticles. Remember nanotechnology? That was a very prominent trend a few years ago.
Sci-fi.
And so that's still there. We're still delivering technologies, and there's great innovations in the nanotechnology space. And I don't think we should forget that. I can defer to many others on the panel around IT, so I won't need to elaborate on that. IT is obviously fabulously, rapidly developing and giving us huge opportunities for innovation in the food space, the environmental space. And I would like to just finally mention biotechnologies. We've got many opportunities with genome sequencing, which gives us a chance to, what I would say, turbocharge plant genetics. This means we can improve crops faster, and also gives us opportunities to do things we haven't done before, like get wild relatives of crops and either what we call domesticate them, turn them into crops themselves directly, ideas which were always talked about, but really more in the fantasy realm. And now it's a reality, and this is very exciting. And especially in Saudi Arabia, we've got plants like Salvadora, miswak, toothbrush bush. And we can now domesticate that plant and turn it, because it's got wonderful little berries. And so we could have our own domestic berry production system here in Saudi Arabia with a plant that can grow with very little water and stabilize sand dunes and do all sorts of amazing things at the same time, make a business from it. So we've got genomics, and of course there are things like gene editing, which is still a little bit marginal in terms of public acceptability and policy acceptability, but the power of these technologies is really can't be overstated, and gives us lots of chances to do things that we haven't ever been able to do before in human history, which I guess is why they're scary and people are concerned about them, but it also gives us fabulous opportunities to increase the sustainability of our food sector.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mark. Mr. Abdullah.
Oh, thank you, Matt. Abdullah Sahab. Actually, I'm the founder of a company called IRAMA. We do something called urban farming. We bring the farm to the hypermarkets, to the neighborhood, so you have your food alive, which is more than fresh, just beside your home. And to do this, you need to work with three different main factors: climate, light, and feeding of that plant, and how it can sustain within hypermarkets. That need a lot of technologies to deal with this. We have more than 32 different nodes of what we call it IoT, powered by AI-based computer vision, that give us the situation of the plant at that moment, and is it good enough, sustain enough to serve the customer with a good quality. With this, actually, we deploy even the operators, which is the classical farmer, to be farmer 2.0. Farmer comes with technology, they operate things with technology, and this is new generation of farmers were not accepted on the market. So we try to make it Uber-like. So we change the customer better than we go and we change the setup. And that's in short.
Fantastic. Thanks, Abdullah. So a lot of collaboration opportunities there between new planting and new farming techniques. That's fantastic. Mr. Amrit, maybe you can talk to us about technology in the water space.
Thank you so much, Matt. And hi, everyone. I'm Amrit. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Indra Water. We're a company based out of Mumbai in India. When we are working a lot on decentralization of water treatment. And how we're doing it differently is by using electricity. Normally, water is treated using chemicals, using bacterial methods, which are inherently slow. So today, we're able to treat large quantities of water and treat some of the most difficult pollutants across streams coming out from industrial establishments as well as non-industrial establishments. And we're able to recover all of this water at the point of source for reuse. Now, one of the most important things that we have noticed is that even though we are electrically driven, we're actually consuming 25% less energy compared to conventional methods that use biology or chemicals to treat water. The idea is to not just treat water quicker, but to be able to treat it to standards where people can reuse it in the industries, or the water could be reused in agricultural purposes. One of the things that we've seen in water is that some of the areas where technology is really growing quick is in the sector of electrochemistry. We're seeing a lot of development in membranes, especially with the use of carbon nanotubes, which can significantly increase the flux, thereby decreasing the cost of water treatment. We are strong believers in the fact that water must be treated to the point where it can be used for various applications. For example, in many cases, the water has nutrients, and we're trying to remove all of these nutrients, let's say nitrogen, phosphate. These are good for plants. So if we were able to treat water, which we are doing with our solutions, to standards that are based on actual end utilization, then it would be much more effective, and more importantly, it would make a lot of economic sense for people. So we're talking about this balancing act between industrial use versus agricultural use of water, and treating water to exactly the standards that it needs to be treated to, rather than treating everything with the same template.
Yeah. Thanks. And same question to you, Asra.
My name is Asrar Damdam. I'm a scientist, an entrepreneur, and the founder and CEO of Uvera. Uvera is a clean tech startup based at KAUST that focuses on increasing the shelf life of fresh foods and digitizing the fresh foods industry in the kingdom. We developed a patented technology that doubles the shelf life of fresh foods without chemicals and within a few seconds of processing. We also developed another device that manages the inventory for fresh produce distribution centers, organic farms, and vertical farms in order to provide real-time traceability with intensive amount of data that is needed to reduce the food loss and waste. And this is one of the goals of Vision 2030, reducing food loss and waste in the kingdom by 50%. And it is also one of the goals of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 12.3. Again, the same exactly, 50% food waste and loss reduction across the supply chain by the year 2030. So that's also the mission of the company, and that's what we're doing.
Fantastic. Thanks, Asra. So sounds everyone's making huge impact in the world of food and water, so it's wonderful to have you all on the panel today. I'll put this one to you, Mark. Looking at the biggest challenges that we're seeing in scaling these technology solutions, particularly in developing nations, and what role can governments, investors, and private companies have in helping solve some of these issues?
Yes, I guess for scaling, you need to test in the particular target environment if it actually works, your technologies work, technically work. And so you need to have trials, you need to be able to test things at a small scale. And then you need to scale up to the next stage where you need to have pilot facilities, so you need to have your pilot plant for deploying your particular technology of choice. And then when you're doing that pilot, you're doing sort of three things at the same time. You're testing and improving your technology, you're demonstrating it to investors, and you're demonstrating it to customers. And so moving from the pilot to the full scale up, this, you need a market. So no market, no business, and you need money. And so you need the investors. And really, for those investors, you have to make a business case. Okay, you have to make a business case for your customer, otherwise they're not going to buy it. And you also need a business case for your investor, so then your particular business is shown to be viable. I think it's the same all over the world. Yeah, that's enough for me.
As a university professor and researcher, it's one step further as well as taking it from the lab to even pilot. That's a huge step from going blue sky thinking to real world solving. So
yes.
It's fantastic that you've been able to make that jump from university into solving problems for
I just point to
farmers.
Christine Gould there because I had a really nice breakfast meeting with her today where Christine's core job is to facilitate that move from the lab to delivery, from discovery to delivery. It's my job as well as a customer, but people like Christine who are doing it professionally is incredibly valuable because that valley of death is a killer for not just a company, but even for a system.
Absolutely.
And we really need to be plugging that gap in the middle, and any way we can facilitate that is very, very impactful.
Fantastic. And Amrit, you've obviously experienced similar challenges in the water industry. So what are you seeing holding scale-ups and startups back from delivering some of this innovative technology?
I think Mark he covered a lot of interesting points there. For startups, especially in the water sector, one needs to be very specific with respect to identifying use cases. Like, what are the kind of pollutants we're trying to remove? What are the kind of different reuse cases that we are targeting? And this is possible by starting small, starting with the small to medium scale industries, the micro SMEs. When you start small, your customer is a lot more interested in trying out the solution because it's a smaller hit. And it becomes much more possible to recover a larger portion of this water. So these serve as strong use cases. So in India, we had started small with a few textile plants, and these were fantastic use cases for the future, where we could not just point at the different kind of pollutants that we were able to remove, but we could effectively showcase savings to the customer, which could be scaled with the larger players. So this kind of paves the way for us to engage with larger MNCs. In our case, it opened up doors to the likes of the Tatas or the Unilevers with whom we started working. But the idea was to replicate the same solution, which became kind of a small module. Now, these modular business cases, even at the product level, they can be replicated all across. So even if you have multiple problem statements in a larger establishment, you could divide them into simpler use cases and work. And that is what you kind of enable by this. And especially from the government side, I think there are a lot of good grants available today for startups to scale this. And these grants are allowing people to scale ideas from the ideation stage right up to TRL 8. So beyond 8, we have customers who are ready to take that leap. So I think for a startup, it's important to leverage this, understand the right point to use a grant, and then leverage a customer to create this use case where they're paying customers after that.
I would like to add to that. One of the significant challenges was really the lack of funding for the deep tech and agri-tech technologies. But since the start of the NTDP program, which is the National Technology Development Program, now funding and grants are available for deep tech ventures. And my company was one of the beneficiaries of this program. So now the problem is limited with the NTDP. We have more funding than before. But still, as mentioned in a previous session today, 1.5% of the global funding goes for agri-tech technologies here in the kingdom when you compare it to the global market. So we still have funding issues for deep tech and agri-tech technologies. We were discussing this also with Abdullah back in the speaker's lounge, that this is maybe one of the biggest issues, because the funding, the grants that are available are really helpful for research, but I think for growth stage companies, we need more investors here in the kingdom.
And Abdullah, you want to jump in?
Mark, thank you. I would like to add one more thing, actually. I might be older than the rest from a startup point of view, and the age again. What I found that on agriculture and water stress and actually food security, usually tax collectors or governments paying the biggest part of that bill. And I found that we should, as a startup in this field, either talk to them, convince them, orient them, or change their mindset to accept this. When they accept it, when they adopt it, investment will come. That's not a big deal. We found that some countries in Europe are spending 14 times of the shelf price only on supporting agriculture. So, we have to talk to the governments and tax collectors. They are the biggest, actually, payer on this field.
Fantastic. And I mean, we can't have a panel on deep tech without talking about AI, large language models, machine learning, however you want to define the role of big data. And I'll come back to Asrar on this one because you mentioned you're using big data in your supply chain management, but what role can AI be leveraged for in food systems, in water resource management, and is there anything that we need to consider from either an ethical or a sustainability standpoint when using these tools?
Yes, AI and machine learning can be very useful for enhancing supply chain overall. It can help with predicting the consumer demands based on historical data and based on market pattern, which can streamline a better inventory management and delivery as well, which can help in reducing the loss and waste at the end of the day. Also, the machine learning and AI can be very useful for precision agriculture. I think the implementation of satellite imagery, drones, and AI can help farmers enhance the crop growth, use less water, and see the weather patterns, which can make the farming activities more efficient. Last but not least, I think the big data, having big data will help reducing the food loss and waste, which is the primary focus of my company, food loss and waste reduction. And when we talk about the ethical aspect, I think data privacy is key. We should have policies for data collection and data usage to implement these AI and machine learning technologies. And when we really zoom out, when we look at the broader goals, the implementation of AI should really promote the sustainable development goals, should promote biodiversity, and should reduce greenhouse gases, not increase greenhouse gases, and should promote regenerative practices. And one of the biggest disadvantages or downsides of AI is the significant carbon footprint that is associated with it. So while we implement AI and machine learning across the supply chain, we should be also developing more energy efficient solutions or more energy efficient computational technologies, and also implementing renewable resources so we can limit the carbon footprint.
Right. Yeah, and you mentioned the supply chain there, and one of the use cases we see is around blockchain for Scope 3 and supply chain tracking. And you broaden it out into sort of modern slavery, and you look at supply chain decarbonization and how you monitor that through all of the various stakeholders in quite complex supply chains, especially in the food industry. So hoping that blockchain can solve some of those problems as well. Abdullah, do you have anything to add into this?
Actually, I would like to add some facts that we have today within Vision 2030. And one of the main and important things that it's been announced in NIDLIP, National Development of Logistic and Industrial Program, 85% of our food have to be domestically. And this is a very serious number. Empower actually hundreds of companies to work urbanly and do things within the urban. Second thing, that we are living in the highest water stress country ever. And we have the second lowest number of farmers. We have the second lowest production number globally. And that's what makes us jump to this ocean, where I think it's a very good market for startups to start something. We need, to have smart farming based on the youth that we have and their technology adaptation. And the big market, the big need that we have today. We import more than 93% of our food. And that need to be changed to 85 domestically. And this is a big change within the next 5 years. I'm not talking about like 50 years later. I think there's no bigger opportunity in the whole globe more than this. So I'm taking it from classical business point of view, and of course, without deep tech and good tech and technologies and application, it will never work.
Absolutely. And with one expat Australian and one expat Brit now living in Australia, we have a very big desert as well. I can see a lot of this technology being used in sort of arid countries like Australia, and also in America, even whilst it's a developed nation, you have food deserts where it's very hard for local communities to access fresh
Usually
food.
your needs push you to create.
So you need to
number one innovators on this are Netherlands. And why? Because 83% of their country below the water. So they need it. So needs push them to be the leaders.
That's right. Thank you. We've got a few minutes left. I'll move on to my final question, which is to everyone in the panel. Where do you see the greatest opportunities in the next 5 to 10 years? Obviously, we've maybe discussed a couple there. But is there anything that you're excited about that's coming up that you can see revolutionizing either the use of AI in this space or on-ground and on-farm solutions? Maybe starting with you, Mark.
Okay, thank you. I think the opportunities we've discussed in terms of technology, what I would like to be seeing more discussed is actually the priorities and where we're directing all of these wonderful technologies. And I have to say, I actually do not support a focus on self-sufficiency. I think there's a big confusion between self-sufficiency in food production and sustainability. And it actually depends on which segment of the food sector we're talking about. So especially, with technologies like Dr. Azra's deploying for fresh fruit and vegetables, you match that with self-sufficiency in fresh fruits and vegetables, 100% supportive, because otherwise we're going to be flying this stuff in because it's got a short shelf life, needs refrigeration. The carbon footprint is enormous. Flying a strawberry in from California, it's insanity. It's what we've got. You go to your local supermarket, you'll see blueberries at the moment coming in from Peru. I mean, come on. If we can provide our fresh fruits and vegetables locally, huge impact. But for long shelf life produce, like our staple foods, our wheat and our rice and corn, barley, we can import this with a very low carbon footprint, and we can maintain high levels of food security because of smart people using blockchain and AI and logistic management systems, which can be very sophisticated, storage systems, which can be very sophisticated. We can still have, and diversity of sourcing, that can give security. So if we have different segments having different strategies, I'd love to see that being more nuanced and the debate becoming more nuanced here in Saudi. Sustainability, I think, has to be a very, very high priority. But the other one, which we haven't discussed yet, is human nutrition and nutritional quality of the food. So we've all got, and globally, we're producing enough starch. There's more people now going to bed obese than they're going to bed hungry for want of insufficient starch. Right. But there's many, many more who are going to bed with insufficient vitamins and minerals. And that's another debate, an area I would love to see us focusing on more.
Actually, I do agree with you, Mark. Actually, with Industry 2.0, we push the farms out of the towns to make cities.
Yeah.
And that push the quality away, that push the farmer's lifestyle away. So we don't have farmers, to be honest with you, technically as the farmers 100 years ago. No, we have today laborers working on farms. And they don't care about the quality, they care about the shape. And that's one of the big issues that we are facing today. Having it back to the town or to the urban area actually support the idea of having good quality monitored by municipalities, by you personally, and by, of course, the point of presence guy, the supermarket or whatever I mean. So yeah, that's technically from human being point of view, not even with the technology. But when you check the things personally, then you can manage it.
Great comment.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I read a statistic that around 70 to 80% of calories in a US supermarket are from three sources: wheat, corn, and soy. And that blows my mind fundamentally, and just it makes you question the food system that they have and how Saudi Arabia can leapfrog that system to develop fresh, nutritious vegetables and food for the local communities
Alive.
and life.
Using wastewater.
Amrit.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of interesting opportunities in the water sector. One of them being, trying to ensure much more uptime for our systems. Wastewater systems are notorious for the fact that they have a downtime of more than 40%, making it unviable for most players to, run these systems over and over again because there's no payback. So the ability to, use data effectively there, where you could predict failures, you could do predictive maintenance, you could do preventive interventions that allow these systems to function, reduce the downtime to less than even 10%. This is much quicker paybacks, and it enables water treatment as a service models, which increases accessibility to solutions. I think the second area is where system integrations happen, and as Mark was mentioning, priorities. Like, what are we treating the water for? We do not need drinking grade water everywhere. So a lot of the water which is treated, even if it's non-potable grade, it could be used for applications which are best suited for that, and only water which is required for drinking grade, purposes which require that drinking grade water, there you could bring in membranes. The consequence of that is that you would be having lesser rejects and lower dependence on expensive evaporation-based systems to operate. So that's not just an impact on the cost, but that's actually much lower carbon footprint right there. And the third area is, bridging the gap between wastewater and energy. There is massive potential to recover energy from wastewater. Not like, for example, we use microelectrolysis. So for us, hydrogen is the way to go forward because we generate hydrogen along with it. But even in other wastewater treatment plants, especially in colder countries, wastewater post-treatment, because we are sending in so much air to maintain dissolved oxygen levels through the blowers, and they're generating massive quantities of heat. Now, this wastewater itself could be used as a heating source in buildings. And there are a few startups which are already doing that in the US. And the last area where I think there'll be massive improvements is in the nutrient recovery sector. Wastewater is a treasure trove of nutrients and even rare earth metals. So the idea is that if we could make the waste more valuable by recovering these, precious metals from it, that would actually increase the viability and move us closer towards a circular solution. So I think these are the areas where I believe there'll be a lot of growth, a lot of development, and there's a lot of opportunity for everyone.
Fantastic, thank you. And we'll leave the last word with Asra.
So looking at the next 5 years or 10 years, I see the implementation for the shelf life technology, either the technology that I developed at Uvera or other technologies, especially here in the Kingdom or in the Gulf countries. Because here in the Kingdom, we import 80% of food, of our food is imported. And this is has a significant carbon footprint, and also the cost of this food, when this food is wasted, the cost is significant also because of the water associated with growing and producing this food. So we will see we will witness a longer shelf life. This will be the new norm in the upcoming years. In addition, I think we will see a more investment in AI-powered greenhouses, hydroponics, aquaponics, and vertical farms to strengthen local resilience and reducing imports and also save water.
Fantastic. Well, unfortunately, we are at time today, but I'd like to thank our guest speakers, Mark, Abdullah, Amrit, and Asrar for their time today and valuable insights, and I really appreciate all of your thoughts and suggestions today, and hopefully the audience has taken away some interesting thoughts to change how we run our food and water systems here in Saudi Arabia and around the world. And I look forward to see some of the food and vegetables that is produced on supermarket shelves soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.